Alright fellas, finally after months of troubles, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach is official, and the first press conference just took place. Straight off the bat, this is a bit of a weird fight. After the Mun fight took place, it was thought that Tank would finally step up in competition to the elite of the division. But here we are again with Tank pulling up another fighter from the division below. In what was meant to be a normal Tank press conference kinda ended up being the opposite, and it raised up several issues. The main that everyone is talking about is how he's retiring at the end of next year. But just before we get into that, if you love everything boxing, you've found yourself in the right place. My name is Cloister and I make boxing videos to help keep you informed. So to stay updated on everything, make sure to subscribe. So the return of Tank Davis has been highly anticipated. The Mun fight was a classic Tank performance, which had all of us fight fans wanting even more. It was thought that after this fight, finally we're going to see a Tank via Lomachenko or a Shakur Stevenson. Yet neither fight seemed to materialise. The Lomachenko fight was in talks, though these talks seemed to fade, with Lomachenko seeming not overly keen to fight. And Shakur was a free agent until he signed on to Matchroom, with him preferring to try and chase Zepeda instead. With these two fights out the picture, they've found another world champion for him to verse, straight out of the 130-pound division. This fight originally was meant to take place this month on the 14th, but issues seem to plague the promotion, mainly thought to be surrounding the issue of pay, with Tank wanting more money than they were willing to offer. But somehow they have managed to get this fight over the line, with the new date being rebooked for March the 1st, taking place at the Barclays Centre. The first press conference took place today and I wasn't thinking really about covering it, but a few factors had me a bit worried. The main thing which everyone is talking about is Tank talking about retiring at the end of next year. I wasn't really expecting this, and this sort of talk at a fight press conference usually isn't a great sign. The reason you would hope he is actually saying this is to force a promoter's hand to give him the money he actually wants. It's clear in the negotiations for this fight that there were issues surrounding Tank's pay. The classic boxing move is if you ain't getting what you want, you threaten to retire. In a page straight out of his mentor's Floyd Mayweather's book, this is a good method to really force a promoter's hand. Mayweather threatened to retire over 10 times in his career, and even actually fake retired in June of 2008. Whenever he thought he might not get what he wants, he threatened to retire, and eventually, he would get what he wanted. So for Tank, with issues at PBC, a threatened retirement could force the hand of someone behind the scenes to give him what he actually wants. Tank's advisors his whole career have been steering him away from the elite competition in the division, yet they want elite competitor pay. Tank does have one of the highest profiles in boxing, but let's be honest, if he wants a record payday for himself, he will have to take a fight which is worthy of it, which at the moment Lamont Roach simply isn't it. The only other reason for Tank saying all of this is that he genuinely might want to retire from boxing. The first 3/4 of the press conference had me a bit worried that we had another Sonny Edwards on our hands. Tank seemed disinterested and not driven by this fight. Roach is a solid competitor with a lot of knowledge on how Tank fights. He's not an opponent you want to come in undisciplined for. As Tank said himself, Roach has that sneaky sort of power. Although Davis by far has the edge, I don't think this will be the walkover everyone is saying it's going to be. If Tank already has his head out the game, stepping in against an opponent like Roach who will be fighting like his life depends on it is a dangerous game to play. But let me know down below, why do you think Tank is already talking about retirement, and will he actually retire in 2025? Although by the end of the presser, Tank did spark up a bit, with some of the usual trash talk starting to pick up, a contrast from the anxious looking mess he was at the beginning. I think simply most of the talk surrounding retirement is to force someone's hand to really just give him what he wants. Tank is only 30, and with the pay he's getting, I see him lasting a lot longer than a year in the game. If Tank retired though at the end of next year, honestly his resume wouldn't be anything special. To help solidify his legacy, he needs to take the bigger fights. The fights against names such as Loma, Shakur, Zepeda, or even in the division up against a Lopez or a Haney if he stays at 140. Without some of those names, his resume just doesn't look great. In comparison to his mentor Mayweather, his resume stands the test of time. Yes, he did duck some fights and fought some fighters past their prime, yet the amount of challenging big fights he had is why he's still heralded as a legend. Yet if Tank retired tomorrow, what legacy would he truly leave? What, a win against Mario Barrios? Even after the press conference, Tank was talking about fighting Keyshawn Davis, saying that he's done just as much in boxing as Shakur, and that Shakur really has done nothing. I don't really want to see him fight Keyshawn. That's a walkover fight to me. I think Keyshawn is very talented, yet I don't see him doing it on the big stage. I just think he would fault under the big lights. Turkiala Sheikh declared though after the press conference that he plans to make Tank versus Shakur eventually. He wants Shakur to verse Schofield and then Zepeda, and as long as he gets through both, he wants to make the Tank fight happen. This would be a dream scenario, but it's yet to be seen if Tank and PBC will come play ball with Turkey. Although the Saudis could be waiting for Tank to become a free agent, but I guess only time will tell. But probably the only promising thing to come out of this whole press conference is that after Tank stated that he would be willing to move up to 140 to fight Teofimo Lopez. To me, that's probably who I want to see him fight the most. Like, just imagine the build up. A motivated Tank and a mouthy Lopez. Teo is probably the only fighter I see matching Tank's energy in the build up, and it would be so entertaining. It would make for a great fight, with it being an interesting style matchup. As well, it would be interesting to see how the weight would come into play. If Tank moved up, he would be an incredibly light 140 pounder, while Teo on the other hand is quite heavy. I would love to just see the build up. Two great fighters who need statement wins on their resumes. But are we going to see that with there being protection rackets in place for both fighters? Well, maybe. The both of them are two fighters who have kind of avoided the Saudi bubble, and it would make sense if they would eventually clash. A collaboration between Top Rank and PBC in the future could be quite realistic, with most of the other big names of those divisions either having a break or are pulled into those Saudi events. That's why I think in the future, for Tank to stay out of the Riyadh season bubble, a fight against a Keyshawn Davis or Teofimo Lopez, who are both with Top Rank, seems pretty realistic. At the end of the day, I just want to see Tank versus the best. To me, Lamont Roach is a better challenger than a Hector Luis Garcia or a Rolly Romero, but still not at the level that many of us want to see him fight at. As we've all been saying for years now, we hope to see him step up in competition, but once again we're stuck here watching a fight that not even Tank seems excited for. Anyways, now I want to hear what you thought about this press conference, and do you think Tank is actually going to retire anytime soon? Let me know all your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing, it does a ton to help the channel. Yet thanks for watching fellas, and I'll catch you in the next one.